But now we'll hand over. Jenny's going to tell us about Terraform.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, cool. So yeah, I'm here to talk about infrastructure as code. I'll just tell you a bit about me quickly first. So I'm a cloud engineer with Contrast Security. They're a global company, but we've got a office over in Riverhouse, which is quite nice. DevOps, I've been in DevOps for 5 years now. Started out Deloitte through their Cloud Academy, and then I've worked for them for a couple of years, Reward Insights as well over in Hall Street, and yeah, with Contrast now for a year and a half or so. So yeah, really enjoying it, enjoying the DevOps. So yeah, what is infrastructure as code? Maybe not everybody knows here if you're not in DevOps or maybe not a developer. So it's really management of your infrastructure. It's a key DevOps practice, and for our team, it's a bit of a source of documentation. It's just a tool that we can build, change, version our infrastructure, and collaborate, stuff like that. Keeps everything right. So why employ infrastructure as code? One of the big things to enable idempotency, so you can run it again and again, and you're going to get the same results. You can do some validation and testing whenever you put it through your pipelines. You can make sure everything's good to go before you deploy. So you can get it through your test environments before you deploy into production and know nothing's going to go wrong. Good for team collaboration, as I said, as well. So we kind of follow the same practices as developers with pull requests, and it's good for us to be able to comment on each other's work before, rather than just clicking buttons in a console. Gives you that stability, reliability, and predictability, so that you know everything's going to work the same, whether it's in staging or production, or if it's in one client's environment or another. And it gives you the power to scale fast, so you can just change the number 1 to the number 20, and you're scaled up, or you can. There's so many options that you can scale quickly, and it just gives you that ease of scale. So Terraform is the tool that I've really been using since I started in infrastructure and code. It's a HashiCorp tool. It supports more than 2,000 providers. Last checked, I think it was 2020 something. So there's a few categories of tools. So a couple of things I would use a lot would be the cloud automation stuff. So AWS is the main cloud provider I would use. So a lot of what we build is through Terraform. Logging and monitoring, we would use Datadog with Terraform as well to build up our dashboards. As I said, you might have a lot of different clients, a lot of different environments, so you might want to do the same thing over and over again, and this means that you run a wee loop on it, and every client you have a fresh Datadog dashboard, and that would take hours of time for you to put together otherwise. So there's loads of tools there that you can build with Terraform, so it's super handy. Another benefit, you can plan before you apply. So before you deploy anything, you can see exactly, that's just a simple example of a security group rule, but yeah, you can see exactly what's going to happen, and it's quite detailed what's going to happen before you actually go and apply anything. So if something's going to change, it'll tell you this is going to change or this is going to be destroyed. So it's nice to know what's going to happen before you click the button. You've got lots of module options as well. So that's actually a screenshot of Terraform, HashiCorp Terraform's own modules. So there's some that we would use, VPC security groups, we would use all the time in our code base. But there's modules for all those different providers I mentioned earlier. So I'm just going to chat you through a quick example. This is one that I got last year. I've actually done a talk already and gone through this before, but so this is just an example of how I used a module in Terraform just to make life easier for us going forward. So the requirements were an S3 website. If anybody doesn't know, S3 is like an objects bucket, and you can make it into a website. It's just an S3 bucket in AWS. And you can just point your domain at the S3 bucket URL, and you've got your website. So it was a documentation website. The team wanted it to be private whenever it was non-production, so they wanted to be able to post it into staging and have to authenticate to see it so that they could make sure everything's good, no spell mistakes, no weird stuff happening before they would post it into production. And whenever it goes in production, we obviously don't want people to have to authenticate to see our documentation, so you want to just go to contrastsecurity.com and see our documentation. So it just gives us a little somewhere to put stuff, check that everything's okay before it's public. Yeah, and another requirement, obviously best practices in place, whether that's security or just all the sort of compliance boxes you need to tick. So this is just a bit of a sketch of the module I made. So in the inner box there, the blue box, that is the module. It's got a couple of AWS elements there, and it's got like a little authentication piece in it as well. So, and then there's the outside of the module as well, whether you want to modify that bit of code or whatever, but the main crux of it is inside that blue box. That's the module, and the authentication is there if you want it or you don't want it. So that's just an example of the code we would use. So at the bottom there, that Okta enabled switch. Okta is the authentication provider that we use. So basically that var.okta enabled at the bottom of the slide there means you can say yes or no, or true or false, sorry. And either that means if it's into staging, you'll say true, so you have to authenticate. Otherwise, you'll say false. So it makes life pretty easy. So yeah, within the module, we've got what's called a Lambda function, which does the authentication piece. So whenever you set count at the top there, if it's what that little bit says, the question mark 1:0 means if you've got Okta enabled set to true, that picks up that we count as 1, or if it's false, picks up the count as 0, so that resource won't be created. So just a quick, easy way to go from one environment to another. But we would use that sort of practice for a lot of sort of stuff. That's just a quick example. But yeah, best practice is enabled by default at the module level. So within that module, we will call on that module from loads of different locations, but within that module, every time we're going to have that server-side encryption block. So we're always going to tick that compliance box. And versioning is always enabled as well. But you can modify this as much as you want, or you can keep it as set as you want. But stuff like encryption, obviously, you want to always have it on. So that's just something that we set inside our modules. So that's pretty much it. I just want to take you through a quick example. And yeah, that's infrastructure as code. I think we have a few minutes if anybody has any questions or. Cool. Well, you can grab me if you want to chat.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jenny.
Thanks for having me.
Good job. Let's hand the mic back. Yeah, I will say, as Jenny mentioned, she has done a version of this talk before. Our wonderful friends over at Women in Tech Belfast hosted a lightning talk session late last year, and Jenny spoke at that. And we actually improved our Terraform because of it on our team. We had been using modules, but I realized we'd been doing it wrong. So yeah, benefits of going to these things, you can then go into work and look like a genius and just take credit for someone else. Thank you, Jenny.